Hello, I'm Johan Falk at Node 1 Scandinavia. This is exercise 18 in the suite called Documentation Site in the Drupal 7 book, Drupal 7 The Essentials. This is exercise 18 is a bit of a hack or a cheat because it's not really a user story, it's actually kind of a task included in a user story, but I've separated it out to become a separate exercise. It's called View Documentation Pages in Collection Context. On the site that we're building, we have documentation pages and documentation collections, and the collections refer to one or several documentation pages. Now, the point of this is that you want, of course, be able to browse the collections, and that's kind of difficult because as soon as you go to a documentation page, you lose the context of the collection. You don't know which collection it belongs to. It can belong to many different collections, and you want to know which one you started from. And that's the point of this user story or this exercise. So the user story is like this. As site builder, I would like to be able to know which collection is currently active, if any, when a user views a documentation page. I want this implemented by being able to display documentation pages at URLs on the form node / and then the node ID of the collection / node ID of the documentation page. This is important since it allows further enhancements on the site, displaying documentation pages within the context of a collection. Cool. We have a small how-to demo here, perhaps a pretty large one. Yep. Log into the site, create the documentation page, remember node ID, create a collection, remember node ID, refer to this documentation page. Manually enter node / collection node ID / documentation page node ID. Verify that the documentation page is displayed. Then alter the URL, replace the documentation page ID with a string or number not corresponding to a documentation page node ID. And we should get a 404 back from this. And if we change the URL to change the last part, the middle part, the collection node ID to something else, we should also get a 404. Right, that's a pretty interesting exercise. And we're going to implement it by using Page Manager and adding a custom page. I'm going to call it documentation page in the context of a collection. Well, even within a collection. This documentation, well, this page displays documentation page while knowing which collection, can't spell, knowing which collection is the currently active one. And this will have the path called node / and then I'm going to call it collection / percent doc page, docs page, even documentation, oh well, whatever. The percent means that it's a required argument in the path. If I used an exclamation mark, it would be non-required. This is required. And I want this to be a panel type. I'm just going to place something very simple in it, but I still want it to be a panel. I want to have access control. Don't want to have visible menu item. I want to have no selection rules. And I don't even need contexts. What do you know? Access control is enough. First, we set the arguments here. Tell Page Manager how to interpret these. The collection thing of the path, that should be interpreted as a node ID. Gonna call it collection. And then docs page should also be interpreted as a node ID. And I'm calling it documentation page. Cool. Continue. Then the access control. This is pretty important that we use this as access control and not selection rules, because access control can actually deny access to a page instead of just throwing a 404, not really knowing what to do with it. Now I just realized that we should have a 404 here, but that doesn't really make sense. We should have, well, doesn't matter. Oh, maybe we should actually have a 404. Crap, yes we should. Let's leave it like this then and continue. If we deny access control, we'll get 403 access denied instead. I just want some simple content here, so I'm going to select the single column layout. And then we come into panel settings, and I'm just going to call it panels. Continue. Here. Now I'm going to add content here, and we want to watch the documentation page. So I'm going to select here node content, view the documentation page, override the title so we don't double it. We don't have to link title to node, include the extras and view it as full content. Let the custom page inherit the title from the pane. Finish. Update and save, and then I'm going to add a selection rule here instead of using access rules. Selection rules. We should check the content type. The collection should be a documentation collection. If so, then this is alright, and the documentation page should be a documentation page. If this is not the case, Page Manager won't find any matching variant and throw back the control to Drupal. Drupal will respond with, I guess, a 404, page not found. It might do a fallback to the node page of node/nid, but we'll see. Okay, this might be it then. Yes. Yes, I guess it is. Actually, we can add node accessible. That's a sensible thing to do with the access rules. Well, I'm gonna leave it at this, actually. This will be comments in the exercise. It might make sense to have access checks here to know that we're allowed to view this documentation page and even the documentation collection as well. I don't know if it's sensible to use that as selection rules or access control, because if we use it as access control, you can actually add the node IDs manually, and when you get a 403 access denied, you know that there is a node in the back end somewhere, instead of if you were getting just 404s all the time, you wouldn't know when you actually hit a node, which is kind of more sensible if you want to restrict access. Then you don't even want to say when you don't have something to display. Okay, that's it. I'll show you the result of this in a minute.